Good morning, everybody, and thank you for your thoughts over the past week. I'm doing much better, and I don't know how much back in the saddle I'll be, but here I am. Anyway, I want to welcome everybody here to our open table, where you're a member of the coalition if you are committed to working to end homelessness in Pierce County and engaging others with respect. We acknowledge that we gather on the homelands of the Puyallup tribe of Indians who have stewarded this coastal home for thousands of years. We call ourselves to listen to and uplift the voices and experiences of the indigenous people of this land and to honor the wisdom of the elders who have so much to teach us all. Those of us gathered here today will hear about resources, opportunities for collaboration and advocacy, updates from local government efforts, and consider how to respond together and as individuals. We are a broad coalition, for those of you who are new, and we don't often speak with one voice on strategies being proposed or implemented. We know many people are working hard to provide safe and secure housing for the long term and to mitigate the traumatic effects of homelessness in the meantime. Our work defines safe housing and necessary services as public goods that should be supported by appropriate public funding in a time when growing income inequality in our country demonstrates the opposite. People clearly don't want to see the results of a lack of housing for low-income residents or the lack of treatment options for those who are dealing with substance use and personal trauma. The message communicated by frequent responses to this 2023 crisis is that poor people should just disappear, at least from public view. You know this, I know this, and we'll take some time today to think about what we might do to bring a different message. But for now, to center us on the importance of this collaborative work, I'm reminded that we act in a powerful tradition of public service, advocacy, and challenge to harmful social realities. This last day of Women's History Month, I remember the work of Jane Addams, called the Mother of Social Work. Addams, who was born in 1860, radically demonstrates the work of earlier coalitions to end grinding poverty, promote urban sanitation, organize for workers' rights, end the practices of lynching and Jim Crow segregation, and demand peaceful resolution to international conflicts. We often talk about the way population increases are affecting housing access and affordability in Pierce County, but this is nothing compared to what Addams faced in Chicago. Since it became a city in 1837, Chicago grew from 4,000 residents to 109,000 in 1860, to 500,000 by 1880, to over 1 million by 1890, and to over 2.2 million by 1910. The unprecedented European immigration in the early 1900s and the great migration from the US South of African Americans seeking a safer and more secure future deeply shaped Addams' experience as a citizen activist. As she lived in the city, a white person of privilege, she wrote of being, quote, overpowered by the misery and narrow lives of these people without resources to meet their basic needs. Addams was doing exactly what we are doing, noticing the state of the city, the piles of garbage and sewage on the streets, and the children with nowhere else to be but in those streets, the families packed into rat-infested tenement rooms, the 18-hour workdays, and how neither government action nor mutual aid organizing was equal to the task. After having seen an example of settlement housing on a trip to London and with inherited money from her upper middle-class father, Addams and a few other women opened Hull House, an old mansion with add-ons, in Chicago in 1888. They lived there with about 70 people at any one time. There's lots of organizing and a variety of, quote, wraparound services, children's kindergarten, places for mothers to gather to talk, rooms where Orthodox male Jewish immigrant tailors and recent teenage female migrants from rural Illinois could meet to discuss garment factory worker exploitation and encourage trade unionism. There were also spaces for youth clubs and free lectures. People paid a small rent, but the expenses required seeking outside support. Believing, and this should be important to us to remember too, believing that action should follow investigation, the women conducted a large community study mapping Chicago's ethnic diversity and documenting the terrible living conditions, called the Hull House Papers. Hull House became an important center of social reform, and Addams was well respected for her leadership in addressing poverty. She lost public approval when she strongly opposed US participation in World War I. Addams was a founder of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, participated in the founding of the NAACP and the ACLU. Awarded the Nobel Prize in 1931, she died in 1935. I end with a short quotation from Addams that's been an inspiration to me from her book, Democracy and Social Ethics, published in 1902, offers her philosophy about our common life and the importance of all of us working together to bring about the common good. She writes, "We have learned to say that the good must be extended to all of society before it can be held secure by any one person or class. But we have not yet learned to add to that statement that unless all people and all classes contribute to a good, we cannot even be sure it is worth having." Welcome everyone to this common work. So I welcome all of you here, and especially anyone who's new. We use this time just for making sure that we understand the rules and norms of our time together, and then to prepare you, since you might not know we would be asking this, if you are new and would like us to know who you are, this will be also a time for you to just introduce yourself with your name and any association you might have. If you are interested in presenting your work to us as a small presentation, we make that opportunity available at a later time. So here's a quick run through our norms that you all know, but I'll just do it again so we're all on the same page. We ask to use your raised hand function to get attention if you wish to speak, that you mute yourself when not speaking, and that you stop the video if you are doing other things that might be causing you to wave your hands about or be distracting to the rest of us. We also use the chat as an information sharing space and a conversation space, and we welcome everyone to use it that way. It's not disrespectful to any speakers. You can also ask questions there and someone will respond. And then we have the community norms, which are basically play nice in the sandbox, but we also really want to think about how, in James Adams' words, how would we be contributing to the common good by the way we respond to one another in the group that we're in. So with that, if there's anyone new or returning from being away for a while and you'd like to tell us you're here, just raise your hand. And Teresa's put in the chat that if you're interested in presenting, you can contact her. So anybody new? Yes, Eli.
I am new here. This is the first time that I've been able to join this meeting. I'm Eli Boyd, the program coordinator from Tacoma Public Library, and I'm here with Michelle Macero today, and our head of PIO, Marisa Buss. So thanks for letting me join your meeting.
Well, welcome, Eli. I love librarians, so you're in a good space for me. All right. And the next people, I'll probably love you too. So just saying. You see anyone else, Rob? I'm not.
Not at the moment.
All right. Well, why don't you take it then?
All right. So as a reminder, if you didn't get an opportunity to introduce yourself during this section of the meeting, you can certainly use the chat to do that and drop your contact information and brief information about your organization to put it in context. Let's get started with our normal opening segment that we do every week, which is talking about what people are seeing this week on the streets. So this is an opportunity for folks who are interacting directly with those who are currently living unhoused in our community to note any changes, new developments, new needs. We've got about 63 folks in the room right now. And so this is an opportunity for all of us to hear maybe how we can contribute to try to help with address those needs that you're noticing on the streets. So a little bit of context, and I see your hand, Jay, we'll get right to you. We are still in a period of, we're actually moving into some unseasonably cold weather this weekend and rain coming in. So there are going to be particular needs over the weekend in particular. We also know that earlier this week, the Union Loop site that has approximately 50 plus people at it has been scheduled for a sweep and posted for a sweep that will come up on, as Richard said in the chat, on April 11th. So that's a particular concern. A lot of folks have been doing outreach, taking food, building relationships with the folks who are at that site. So there's a lot of concern because there's clearly not places for those folks to go. So let's go ahead and get started. Jay, your hand was up first.
I've spoken to at least Dion, and I know that this is widespread. This just isn't at Salvation or St. Vincent de Paul, but people are coming in without tents, without blankets, and otherwise because the windstorms followed by rain, and that pretty much wiped out everybody's gear on top of a really harsh, kind of cold, bitter, windy winter. So it is been made apparent that at least through St. Vincent de Paul, people are coming in and needing replacement tents once every month or so, needing blankets at least once every couple of days. Some people have gotten like water resistant sleeping bags, and that seems to help, and it takes a little bit longer for them to cycle back through to us. But we really need to, and people are starting to angle away from tents and into tarps, one, because they're easier to carry, two, we're getting into warmer weather, three, it's easier to pack up and less likely to lose because of sweeps. Like, you can't take a tent if I don't have one, but if I have a tarp, I can keep it longer. So we need to get some tents if we can, definitely tarps, definitely blankets. It would be nice if we got some waterproof sleeping bags. We are exiting out of inclement weather for winter and entering into our season of heat, but those heat allowances don't cover any winter weather behavior from the end of March on. So anything from here on out that is cold weather needs to be donated or community found. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jay, for that reminder. The city of Tacoma, the winter extra capacity that's funded by the city of Tacoma at various shelters in the city, that time period ends today. So so there will be a decrease in capacity unless the city steps up to make special arrangements. Teresa?
So in answer to Kenneth's question in the chat, what I've always seen is the people who do the sweeps are taking care to make sure people keep their tents with them. But I think what Jay's talking about is the winds took down a lot of stuff. And of course, if someone's not there during all the notifications of the sweep, eventually the tents do get removed. But what I do believe there's a concerted effort to keep people connected with their supplies. As Richard noted and Rob, the Union Loop has the posting right now, and it's another case of people, everybody in a camp being blamed for something that somebody did, and we really need to shift that. But at the same time, I just want to say from the other end of this, you all remember perhaps when G Street was swept, we now have a lot of people sleeping here again. We have tents going up daily. They'll come in, you know, the HEAL team cannot possibly monitor all of the space in Tacoma that they are now tasked with keeping people off of. So what's happening is people are just setting up really quickly, and they put the tents right over the boulders that got placed here and sleep curved around the boulders. They're building fires against the boulders. It's not a solution. Boulders are not a solution. I know I'm ranting, but I just want to say everyone keeps going around all the places that have been swept. I've heard this from other people near swept areas that the tents are re-arriving. So if we needed more evidence that this is not working, there it is.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. Dion.
So I'm not on the streets, but I am in our resource center. We have probably over the last month, we've had 200 or 300 new people come in. And I can say that what I am hearing is that people are losing their tents. They are switching over to tarps, just like Jay said. But I do have a lot of people coming in, and I'm not placing blame because I don't know. Like I said, I'm not out there on the streets. but I am hearing that their tents are being destroyed and they're leaving for a period of time and they come back and their belongings are gone. And I've said that before and I'll keep saying it, but we have a high volume of people who come in and ask for a replacement of every single item that they once had because they leave to go get anything, food, take a shower, and they come back and everything that they had is gone. So we do have a problem with people's things getting taken or destroyed.
Thanks, Dion, for sharing what you're seeing coming in the door. Ed?
I agree with Dion. I've been out on the streets. I have videos of tents being destroyed. And much to my chagrin, I didn't stop it. But people that are hired by the city to clean up, they're taking tents, they're taking sleeping bags, they're taking whatever's there and throwing it out. So there's no question that that's going on when we put tents out on the street for people to use. Eventually the city throws them away.
Thanks, Ed and Sally.
So the folks that have been along Martin Luther King Way are the people who are hilltop people, and they know how to navigate bathrooms and food and stuff in the hilltop. So they've stayed, and they were staying on the very southern edge of People's Park during the day and going up to 11th and M at night under the overhang. But I think they might have been told they can't be there anymore because this morning they were all back at under the overhang at 11th and MLK, probably partly to get out of the wind, although the wind has been coming from all directions, so that's been hard. But just get out of the coming rain. And I've seen people along MLK in the 1300 block and the 1500 block setting up tents on the sidewalk. And so that they still have their tents, but they don't really have a place to put them. So I guess what I'm worried about is that these folks clearly are going to stay in this area. And I agree the HEAL team can't monitor everything at once. And so, but they're still going to get moved regularly. And it's just their situation is going to get worse and worse as time goes on. So, I guess I'm struggling with, what can we do that will make a difference? But what I'm seeing things just seem to be getting worse.
Yeah. Jessica, I see you joined the call. Can you offer any perspective on what you're seeing outside the Tacoma city limits? Are you still seeing more people flowing into the county?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely just continuing to see an increase on the outskirts. But also, I was just talking about this morning, as they're pushing all of these small camps, like 1 or 2 here and there, they're turning into like big, basically crime hotspots. And I think that it's really having the opposite effect of what they were intending for it to have. So we're seeing a lot more larger camps because everybody's just kind of running out of places to go. And so they're all kind of, coming together in a lot of places. And it's becoming pretty dangerous, I think, for people. I mean, it's not just because of the people that are in the groups, but when people just get piled on top of each other, it can create, frustration and all of that. So that's kind of, we're seeing the same.
Yeah. Let's see, Jeffrey, your hand's up.
Around Tacoma, I've been seeing onesies in a lot of places that have been swept from bigger camps. Not so much gathering together. And so there are some areas where these individual tents are not being swept. They're being left alone. My speculation is that the city's trying to shut down the large camps and letting people be solo somewhere, which is abhorrent. We are social beings. We need to have each other. And it's the same thing with the campers. They're social beings. They need to have company. So that's my take.
All right, so we can continue sharing information about what we're seeing on the streets in the chat. We do need to move on to next items on the agenda. And especially because we have a walk-on item that'll be happening here in a second. And we have an item that I didn't manage to squeeze into the agenda this week that'll come next. So that's on me, but I'd like to invite Michelle from the Tacoma Public Libraries to talk about Tacoma Reads for a few moments.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not quite sure why my camera isn't working this morning, but I'm happy to be here, and we're here to talk about Tacoma Reads this morning. And I am going to turn it over to our PIO officer, Marissa Buss, and our library program coordinator, Eli Boyd, to give you more information. So please welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Marisa. I'm the public information officer for the library. Sorry, I was working late last night. And Eli is my partner on the Tacoma Reads program. Hey, so Tacoma Reads is, I think, been going on for about 10 years. It's a partnership between the Tacoma Public Library and the mayor's office. And it is our community reads program. Most cities have a community reads program where we all read a common book. So you may have been able to participate in the past. We had Isabel Wilkerson, we had Tommy Orange, we had Marcelo Hernandez Castillo, we had Julia Alvarez last year. So we've had a lot of great authors, great programs, and great talks about all kinds of themes, ranging from immigration to grief and loss to the modern Indigenous experience. So this year, we are exploring the theme of home, housing insecurity in our communities. And we worked with a team of community members and some of our longtime partners for Tacoma Reads in coming up with a variety of themes. But ultimately, we turned it over to the mayor's office for their decision. And they chose to go with the topic of home, housing insecurity in our community. We then started working on selecting the titles with them. So I will put a link to those titles in the chat. The main title, thank you, Eli, is A Place Called Home by David Ambrose. David grew up homeless and in the foster care system, so it's a memoir of his experience. And today he is an advocate for change in the foster care system, and he speaks nationally on that topic a lot. So he will be here on November 4th. We are going to host, UW-T Library is hosting us at University of Tacoma this year, Saturday, November 4th at 3 p.m. He will be in conversation with Mayor Woodards, and we will have a lot of programs in the fall for all ages. A few years ago, we decided that to expand the program beyond just adult readers. So we now have a young adult book and a children and family book as well in the lineup. So we have programs about all of those things. I may reach out to this group to pull on our local community leaders who are well-versed in the state of housing in this community to maybe ask you to speak. So thank you very much. Eli, would you like to speak to the programming aspect of the program?
Yeah. Also, I would just mention the names of the other books. You know, the Y selection that we have is a book called Genesis Begins Again by Alicia Williams. I think that I got her name correct there. And it is about a young dark-skinned Black girl who is facing colorism and eviction and just difficulty in our community with housing as well. Then the picture book we have is a book called Home by Tanya Lippert, about children and their family experiencing housing insecurity and going through that experience and the effects that it can have on you. And then just to answer the question here that Todd asked, have we considered hosting a human library? I'm still fairly new, but I have been having meetings with our branches and whatnot to actually talk about. We're calling them really wisdom cafes for the most part, and with the wisdom cafes, having people who have different experiences and whatnot to talk to our patrons that are at the library. So now we haven't focused on maybe inviting folks who've experienced houselessness or folks who are experiencing houselessness, but that is definitely something we can consider. So thank you for the suggestion. Yeah.
And Eli, I work in the administration. Eli works out at the branches. We are offering some new programs. I don't know if you heard, but we just stood up a Narcan machine where people can go into Moore Library and get Narcan very easily from a vending. It's not a vending machine, it's a distribution machine, I guess, because you don't have to pay.
Good, yeah.
So we are that's been a huge asset to our community. We're working with the Tacoma Needle Exchange. We interface with a lot of people experiencing houselessness. We provide services, resources, connections, and access to public restrooms, internet, a safe place. So we're happy to be here and happy to be talking about home housing insecurity in our community this year. For Tacoma Reads, I'm hoping it can broaden community engagement and involvement with this topic. So I look forward to working with you all, and I hope you'll join us for Tacoma Reads.
Yes, agreed. I'm glad to be here, and I hope we can definitely develop more of a partnership.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for choosing this as the topic for this year. It seems very fitting with what our communities are going through. So any quick questions for our library friends? Yeah, Teresa.
I'm really glad you're doing this. I'm wondering, the county has done this program of loaning out chargers that people can come back in. Mobile chargers. I wonder if the city is doing that or has considered doing that.
We haven't loaned out chargers yet. I have heard of other libraries doing that. We do loan out mobile hotspots for free internet access and Chromebooks as well. So that was we did a couple fundraisers for those. So that's what we have distributed currently. But thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, and do reach out and let us know when there's opportunities for this community to be supportive as this moves forward, and especially toward the fall time when you have more programming around the Tacoma Reads program. All right, so let's shift over to our walk-on topic, and I'd like to invite John Brown from Lehigh. This was kind of a late-breaking request regarding an issue down in Lakewood with the former Canterwood Suites, Maureen Howard. I can't remember the name that you all had given to that space. John, I hand it over to you.
Oh, no, thank you. So first, let me apologize about not having my camera on today. I'm actually in the field, but my name is John Brown. I'm a program manager for Lehigh. I'm very familiar with the coalition, so it's great seeing everybody. So pretty much Sharon wanted to be here, but she couldn't. But we've had just kind of need some support right now. We recently bought the Candlewood Suites that's located in Lakewood. We are naming it Maureen Howard Place. And what the city is trying to do is put a new code in that discriminates against homelessness. And what we're trying to do is trying to get individuals that can come and support. We have another hearing. It's going to be happening on Wednesday for them to pass an ordinance that will not allow us to have that many individuals inside of the hotel. And again, we're doing the partnership with Commerce. The hotel we'll be able to house about 80 to 90 individuals that are going to be experiencing homelessness, which is really good. And as you guys know, Lehigh, we're all about trying to get as many people as we can off the streets. So really what we're just kind of want to let the coalition know what's going on. The hearing is going to be next Wednesday, and we're just trying to get support that we can help as many individuals as we can. As we all know, homelessness is a very serious issue. And, we also opened and run Aspen Court. So we just kind of want to get some support on that as well, and just kind of let you guys know what's going on. And we're super excited, and we know that the coalition has supported us for many, many, many years, and we just are looking for more support, and just wanted to kind of let you guys know what's going on. And thank you for your time. Let me speak, the coalition, and also Rob as well. And if there's any questions, I will leave my email in the chat if anybody wants to talk to me offline about it.
Great. Thank you, John. Do you have any details about the meeting on Wednesday and how coalition members could be most supportive to speak in favor of this project?
So I know that I will be there. A couple other Lehigh employees will be there. We're also going to have some other clients that we've helped in the past, just to speak upon, the work that these shelters are doing, then also the help that the individuals are receiving, and that it's important to not limit it, the amount of individuals we can help. If we can help 80 to 90 individuals, why try to limit it to just 50, right? So that's kind of what we're just looking for support on. Just say, hey, it's a time. We have a lot of individuals that are experiencing homelessness, and we're trying to get as many people as we can off the street to give them resources to get them back on their feet. So anybody's welcome. It's happening on Wednesday next week.
Did you say what time Wednesday, John?
I don't have the time, but I can look that up.
I can dig it up and share it in the Ryan, this is in Lakewood that this situation is taking place at the former Canterwood Suites. And just a quick bit of context. So this property is, I believe Lehigh's purchased it using some of the Department of Commerce right-of-way funding, and it's being used to help move people out of rights of way in Pierce County into more permanent housing, or more better housing than they're currently in those rights of way. So it's part of the right of way program that's happening in 5 counties across the state. Jay, I see your hand is up.
Could you please post to the coalition listserv when you have the information on how we can attend, whether it be a physical address for the location, a Zoom address if they have one, and if there's any applicable, can we comment by writing? Is there going to be a comment time? Can we get ahead of this and comment through writing on a site? If you could get all of that information together, I see Rob working vigorously to do so in the chat, but also add it with commentary from yourself to the community listserv. It would be really, really great. Thank you.
Oh, yep. And I just saw Joe Purvis on here, which also works for the Low Income Housing Institute, and he will be getting all that information out to you guys.
All right. And I will definitely post information in the chat when I have a moment. I'm on the Lakewood site, but it's a matter of digging. So thanks for bringing this to our attention, John. And thanks for the email last night from Sharon.
Oh, thank you for the time. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Great. So let's shift over to our conversation with Cynthia Stewart about the Continuum of Care and recruitment efforts that are underway. So Cynthia, would you like to take the floor?
Yes, thank you very much. I want to share my screen briefly. Oh, I need to be enabled.
Yeah, I'll do that here for you just momentarily. All right, you should be able to do that now.
Okay, let's see if I can make it work now. Share screen. Here we go. Share. And from the beginning. Whoops, this is not working. Doggone it.
Well, we're seeing it actually.
Here we go. No, I couldn't get it big like that. So, so I want to talk to you about the continuum of care, which many of you know about already because you participate in coordinated entry and you may use the HIMIS system. But the continuum of care, it's a funny word because it actually refers to a board of directors as well as to a process and a structure. So I am here representing the board, and we are seeking new membership, particularly people of color, to get the membership of the Continuum of Care closer to the relationship that people of color have to the homeless population. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how it's structured, what it is, and then put some documents in the chat for you so that you can follow up if you're interested at all. I'm talking to you as people who in your jobs may be interested. Some of you are from agencies that are already on it, so it would be a matter of double checking with your management. And then some of you may have clients that you're aware of who are, or you may be advocates yourselves who might be interested in this. So I'm going to move ahead here. So the mission of the Continuum of Care is to promote countywide, community-wide commitment to ending homelessness. And it's through the development of countywide plans and coordination of policies and housing and urban development funding. So the Continuum of Care has had for a long time a 5-year plan. It changes every few years, obviously, since it's a 5-year plan. And then using that 5-year plan, the Continuum of Care applies to housing and urban development for funding. And then when that funding is available, it is dispensed to agencies providing direct services. And the county is what we call the collaborative applicant who handles that process for them. The Continuum of Care is authorized by the McKinney-Vento Act that has to do with homeless students in school. And it is mandated by Federal Housing and Urban Development, the HUD organization, for getting the homeless assistance money. I want to add about the plan that the county, as you all know, has adopted a comprehensive plan to end homelessness. So now we have this plan and that plan. And so the Continuum of Care is now looking at adopting the comprehensive plan to end homelessness as its plan. So there's only one, and it reduces the amount of confusion about what we're working on. Secondly, I want to add that there is a proposal from that Implementation Advisory Board for the comprehensive plan to end homelessness, that this Continuum of Care, COC, may be the backbone or the foundation of a new unified regional entity to deal with homelessness. So the importance of the COC is elevating, I think, at this moment in time. It may get changed if that is the proposal that the Pierce County Council adopts, but it's all in limbo right now, but the COC is proceeding with its current function. So I mentioned that it's both a program and a structure. The words are a little confusing when you talk about Continuum of Care, and it actually means a board. It also means a structure, a process. Continuum, of course, is continuous. There's a range, a spectrum, and care means that we take care of people. So the structure is the HIMIS, the Homelessness Management Information System, that is used to create a database for services and keeping track of people and managing their cases to the extent possible. And then the coordinated entry system, which is the intake system that allows people to connect with the services and resources that are available. The COC is set up with a board, which is the primary decision-making body. In addition to the board, there's an executive committee that is comprised of the officers and standing committee chairs. And then there are some both standing committees and some ad hoc work groups as needed from time to time. So I happen to be on this board now representing my job is the Racial Equity Committee Chair. And that might strike you as a little odd because normally a racial equity chair might be a person of color, and we are looking for more people of color, and I will gladly turn that role over when we get somebody like that. In the meantime, that role is one of the co-chairs under the new bylaws or the new charter for this group. So the offices include the co-chairs and a vice chair, and then the standing committee chairs. So this is a whole list of stuff, and I'm not going to read it to you, and I won't even have this up here long enough for you to read it, but I am going to put it in the chat. But basically, the COC's responsibilities are to designate the HIMIS lead and what we call the collaborative applicant, which is currently Pierce County. That is the entity that does basically the management of our grant applications and that kind of thing. The COC is also the entity that sponsors the annual homelessness point in time count that you all are familiar with. And it's been interesting. For other reasons, I've been doing a lot of data research, and nobody has really done a point in time count the way it used to be done for the last several years because of COVID. So there's not a lot of data right now. We also know that the point in time count is not necessarily accurate. It's just representative of one particular time and only those people who can be identified at that one particular time. But it is the basis that HUD uses for part of its funding allocation. So it's an important activity, and those of you who engage in it are super, super important. The job then of the COC is to rank and rate the funding applications, develop the strategic plan, which I've already talked about. So part of the Racial Equity Committee's job is to look at the racial disparities and to figure out what strategies are necessary to be implemented to reduce homelessness, particularly the disproportionality there. So we're looking again for people who are particularly interested in that and able to help give guidance to the planning process. My particular outlook is that we need a lot more people who are actually being served or who wish they were being served to hear more about what ways we can address their needs instead of hypothesizing about those needs. So we definitely need involvement from the people affected, and particularly, again, people of color. I'm not going to read the rest of this. You can see it later. So annually, there is a competition for funding, and I've already mentioned that. We apply to HUD, we get the money, it goes back out again, and many of you are in organizations that are already in that process. So I am going to put a handout in the chat. I promised Rob that this would not take long, and so I'm making it as short as possible. I'd be happy to answer a few questions if you have any. I put my contact information here, and then there is a web page that has a lot more information about the COC that you can use. So with that, I am going to stop, and I will put stuff in the chat when I'm done answering questions if there are any.
Great, thank you, Cynthia. And folks with questions, go ahead and use the raise hand function or raise your physical hand. Yeah, do it, Rahima. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. So I have a couple of questions. So for one, I want to know, so you're saying that you need Black, Indigenous, and people of color on the board. I want to know how they're going to be heard, respected, supported, and not tokenized. And how are people, when they're called out on their biases, you know, how are they going to be supported for that as people are not getting in their feelings? And the second question is, you didn't mention that people with lived experience. And if you do get people on lived experience, how are you going to compensate them for their time and their expertise?
Very good questions. Very good questions. I'm going to answer the second one first. We haven't yet put in place some compensation program, but it's certainly been discussed, and I'm hoping that we will move to that for obvious reasons. In terms of your first question, what I can tell you is this is not public, but I'm going to just lay it out anyway. The COC has had a history of tokenizing people of color, and there's been a lot of conflict over that. And the racial equity chair 2 chairs ago basically couldn't take it and got off of the COC. And the most recent one was just really too busy. I ended up being the person coordinating the committee, so I'm in this seat now. But I can tell you that I am very, very, very committed to making sure that we don't do that again. I am very committed to making sure that we accept, that we hear, that we listen, and take heed of and implement the things that we hear that people need from lived experience, and particularly those who are marginalized because of their race. So I don't know how convincing I can be for you, but I am absolutely committed to that.
Thank you for those questions and that answer, Cynthia. Did that cover everything to Rahima?
For now, yes.
Okay.
Please contact me if you'd like to have a longer talk.
That would be great. I'll get your information from Rob.
Great.
All right, Ryan, I see you have your hand up.
Just to understand the landscape, what is the scope of the Tacoma Pierce County Continuum of Care? I know the Continuum of Care system is kind of a patchwork. Seattle's got theirs. Some cover a city, some cover an area. What's ours?
That's a really good question, and I skimmed over it. Basically, in the state of, so first of all, HUD requires that there be a continuum of care in order to get HUD money. I already said that. What I didn't say is that it's typically done by county. But in Washington state, only 5 counties have a continuum of care, and all of the other 34 counties are handled by the Department of Commerce as what they call the balance of state, which is a little weird. But anyway, so Pierce County's Continuum of Care was established years ago by interlocal agreement between the county, the city of Tacoma, and the city of Lakewood, but it does represent the entire county, all of the cities in the county, all of the people in the county. So it's a countywide. King County has its own, Snohomish County has its own, Clark County has its own, and Spokane County has its own, and the rest are in the balance of state. Did that answer the question clearly enough?
Yes, thank you.
I just want to be sure that I'm not, I want to make sure that I'm being clear because I'm a little tired today.
Thank you, Cynthia. And Sally has her hand up.
Cynthia, can you comment on the level of staffing required for the COC to be fully effective and how close you are right now to being staffed that way?
The level of staffing is insufficient right now. I have not been able to clearly identify exactly what we have available. We do have one person who puts the agendas together and the meeting notes and sets up the meetings. And that person is also responsible for coordinating the applications and the funding review process and that kind of thing. There are other staff behind the scenes. One of the ones that I'm really pushing hard for is data analysis. We've not been able to get good data. That's behind the scenes. I don't know how it's paid for. I don't know really, frankly, how the county allocates its funding versus the COC funding to support the COC. So that's a long rambling way of saying I don't know a lot. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for asking that question, Sally, because I saw Timothy ask the same question or similar question in the chat. So what
I really want to emphasize here is that I am giving you some truths of the matter here. I am not sugarcoating anything, but I am doing that so that you will potentially be motivated to join and help solve some of these problems.
One question for you, Cynthia. Currently, is the COC still meeting just quarterly?
It is meeting at least quarterly, so it can meet more frequently. It's currently on a quarterly schedule. So there's potential to have other meetings in between.
Okay, and maybe I probably missed it because I was multitasking, but how many additional members are you looking for right now in this recruitment?
Well, it's in the handout. We're looking for many.
Yeah.
The COC has kind of a spectrum of membership. It's not a fixed number. And so there's a whole range of categories of representation that we would like to have. Sometimes one person can meet several categories. So it's not in terms of numbers of people, but it's in terms of assuring that we have the representation of the kinds of skills, experience, and qualifications that are necessary to make sure that we know what we're doing.
Got it. All right. Any other last questions for Cynthia?
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
Cynthia, the Tacoma Pierce County COC is not the same. I'm over here in Spokane, and they're having the same issue about getting folks of color on their board, people of color. But it's like, I kind of feel like if you all would have started this at the beginning, people of color and lived experience and those most impacted by housing and homelessness, it's like we wouldn't be in this, we would not be asking for us to be on there. But I think if you are really searching for folks with lived experience and those who are most marginalized, I really would suggest that everybody on the board take some kind of cultural competence training, some racial equity training.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. So thank you, Cynthia, for providing an overview and explanation of the opportunity. And
can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
I just want to, I think this is maybe appearing a little bit weird to all of you. So I want to tell you about my background just briefly. I grew up in a Black neighborhood as a very small minority of white people there. And I became very attuned to the issues, particularly in school, when I saw that the teachers treated people differently. Even as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, I could see that. And I grew up with a very strong commitment to not being that way, to trying to fix that. I actually graduated from the University of Guam, where I was one of very few white people who went there. It was that university at the time was established for the islanders. I'm very, very committed to equity in every regard. And I just wanted to share that. Maybe it's a little strange for me to be in this position, but I wanted to give you a little bit of reasons why. And now I'll quit interrupting, Rob.
all right. Thank you, Cynthia, and thanks for being candid and taking on the questions that we threw at you this morning. All right. So let's shift to get an update from Gerald Daniels at Brotherhood RISE. I asked Gerald to stop by and give us an update on how things are going in the creation of the new micro shelter village on the hilltop. And so I hand it over to you, Gerald. Unless Gerald stepped away. Gerald did step away. All right, so if Gerald comes back, I will shift over, but it looks like he had, oh, there you are, Gerald. I just can't hear you. Yeah, I can see you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. All right. Well, let's try to come back to you, Gerald, and we will move on to next items in the agenda so that we keep moving along. But the next item in our agenda is to kind of take a look back at last week's breakout conversation. So Timothy, would you like to do that?
Yep, ready to go with that.
And can I share my screen with that?
Yes, please. And when I'm done, I'll drop this PDF in the chat to make it easy for folks who want it. So as always, we begin with some inspiring words drawn from our opening. really wanted to call out the great work that Council Member Mello did and all of the spine builders, as he put it, that supported the 0.1% tax. Huge thing for us to celebrate. And last week, our discussion focused on the inclement weather response, what works well or needs fixing. You know, I think this is one of those things where we kind of take the stuff that works for granted. We take the stuff that works for granted, and we sort of focus on the stuff that didn't work as well. So we have disproportionate attention paid to each of those questions. To just briefly summarize what worked well, you know, as always, celebrating the people and the coalition and our work together and all the good things that come from that. Great communication with the county this around. We got lucky and kind of dodged a bullet on extreme temperature this year for the most part. A lot of great activity with the coalition. The basics like blankets, cots, hand warmers seem to be suitably and amply available, and getting the reports and current information in the way we would expect. Things about inclement weather that we need to continue to look at. Someone pointed out the city was oddly silent during this, that there's still more last minute crisis thinking than there need to be, given how predictable a lot of the needs are. And noting that the community mobilization this last year really made a huge difference. FOB site talked about the struggle about heat that went on into last November, and are concerned about similar challenges around cooling. Concerns about inexpensive portable heat sources. The world supply of hand sanitizer is not going to be in glut forever. Sweeps being a terrible regional example, just sort of a shitty little virus that's spreading. And some folk wisdom. Can't be mad at folks for not accepting a burger when every person before you is offered a burger that they just spat in. So we can think about what that means. And, you know, pointing out that, again, people are harder to find because of the sweeps, and that this continues to add cost to the city and trauma to the most vulnerable. He said for perhaps the 1,000th time in this coalition, that we need ongoing year-round task force to stay on top of inclement weather. Shelter sites should be able to exceed capacity. Heated cooling buses need to be part of inclement response. Again, a need for a unified regional approach. We're still looking for that Pierce County dashboard. And there is both support for and a sense of urgency for a by name list, but also concerns around that could be resolved by usage of nicknames. And that's about it for concerns that were raised. And then, as always, there's the notes and resources list at the end, which seems to have involved to have a recent press sections, fundraiser and events, resources and needs. And when people throw them in the chat, job openings pop up in there as well. That's it.
Great. Well, thank you again, as always. And I see you're getting some kudos for your side commentary in the, in the chat. So we definitely appreciate it, and really appreciate that you're bringing together that notes and resources section at the end, because that's really useful.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. So I know on our agenda, I said we would go into a breakout conversation now, but I think we're going to go ahead and shift to our government updates and then come back to the breakout after those. So let's shift over to those. I see, Matthew, you're on the call from the city of Tacoma. Do you have updates for us this week?
I do. Morning, everyone. Matthew Jorgensen with the City of Tacoma Neighborhood and Community Services Department. As far as the Lakewood camping ordinance goes, we've had a few folks reach out to us and ask us about how that ordinance might impact our home.
You got muted somehow, Matthew.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, we're just encouraging folks to reach out to Lakewood directly about the implementation of their ordinance and how they anticipate that it might impact other jurisdictions throughout our region. And we'll be monitoring the impacts on our own system. And we're happy to discuss with folks about how we can help support people that are experiencing homelessness. And we continue to prioritize City of Tacoma residents and our strategy to build up systems and support the unhoused and unsheltered folks in our community. So it's just kind of an ongoing process that we're monitoring as it goes along. And as far as safe parking goes for Holy Rosary, we're still working with CCS as they're continuing working on the final steps to have that site open. We were hoping to have it open next week, but due to some staffing issues, it's looking like we'll hopefully be having it open the week of April 10th, if not earlier. So they're just trying to address some staffing issues, make sure they're fully staffed up for it. And as a reminder, that site will be located at Holy Rosary and will serve up to 40 individuals in 20 vehicles and 24/7 support, case management, access to bathrooms, showers, laundry facilities on site. So we're excited for that to come online in the next month. Hopefully be coming online the week of the 10th. And then as far as the safe parking checklist that we've been going back and forth with all the city departments on, it's finally back with, it's with Media and Communications for their final approval. And we're looking to have it fully ready to distribute to the community the same week, the week of the 10th. So Jeffrey, thank you for your patience. But we'll be excited to have that for the community, to have that checklist for folks to see how they can serve that population in our community. And I'll put my contact info in the chat if you guys have any other questions or follow up. And I'm also able to take questions right now.
Well, there is one question in the chat from Stephanie about how do we determine Tacoma residents? Is that using the last known zip code, or how does that work?
So as it stands right now, we are still treating it as where did you sleep last night? So if you slept last night in Tacoma, then you're a Tacoma resident. I know there's some ongoing conversations about, what is a resident, but that's where it stands right now. Where did you sleep last night? Was it in Tacoma? Well, you're a resident.
Got it. And then Teresa asked about, can you speak about why the opening dates for these different sites keep shifting?
Yeah, there's always something. That's when we set up these sites, we started calling them like the three-legged stool, where you have the property, the funding, and then the capable provider. And it's rare that we find those three, and we luckily did it with Holy Rosary. But like I said, it's for this site specifically, it's a matter of staffing. So CCS is just working and making sure that they have full staff on site 24/7. As many of you know, just the nonprofit sector, staffing is such a challenge right now for folks. So, with these delays and these different projects, there's always, whether it's power, whether it's staffing, we work to address it the best we can, but it's just kind of the lay of the land as it is right now.
All right. Anybody else with a question for Matthew? All right, not seeing any right now. Let's shift over and see if we have any updates from Pierce County Human Services. Anybody on the call with an update? I don't see Jeff in the room, so maybe they are not present right now. So let's shift then over to the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. This is Jenny. I just wanted to share a, let's see, what is it called? I want to get the title right. It's a fact sheet about the COVID-19 public health emergency transition. It's called the Transition Roadmap from HHS, Health and Human Services. As you've heard, the public health is officially coming to an end on May 11th. And it's not like everything, access to things will just be cut off. It's actually a lot more nuanced than that. And so I found this fact sheet has been really helpful in talking to folks and helping folks understand what will still be covered at what level, what will not, with what we're calling the commercialization of COVID testing, vaccinations, et cetera. So I wanted to share that with folks. I will share that in the chat. And then just remind folks that the CDC's we've got these COVID test kit kiosks. That's kind of a mouthful, up and running around the county. I think 2 locations currently in Spanaway, 1 in Browns Point, and then we're going to have one at TPCHD's D Street location coming soon. And I will share sort of a 1-page flyer that just explains a little bit about the kiosks. And that's it for me today. It's been quite a week. I can feel that, folks, there's a lot of stress. There always is, but there's a lot of stress, a lot of weariness, a lot of just a lot of heavy stuff going on this week. So I'm sending everyone love, and thanks for letting me be here, and I'll share some things in the chat. Please reach out if you have questions for me related to communicable disease or anything else with the department. Have a good weekend.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Jenny. And I do see Mark has his hand up.
Yep.
Get unmuted here. Just a quick question, and I'm not sure if you're the best one to ask this of, but talking about inclement weather, is there are the regulations countywide or statewide that dictate when somebody who's experiencing homelessness is discharged from the hospital that the staff is required to ensure that they have a place to go, in terms of, I know California introduced something like that a couple years ago, and that's been pretty successful. But before somebody leaving, there's, they understand that, they aren't going to just be out in the cold.
I do not have a definitive answer to that, but I do not believe we have something like that in place. I think that's a gap and a problem that people have definitely heard and incidents of folks getting discharged to very unsafe conditions. And I think it's really unfortunate.
Right.
Sort of rule or anything. We need to work with our health systems to hopefully ensure that's not happening. But yeah, I hear you. And I think the short answer is no, that there's not a good system in place for that. Cynthia, do you have thoughts for Mark? Or
yeah, there was a law passed that says that people cannot be discharged if they're going to a homeless situation. And about $60 million, I believe, was put into the budget this year, at least in the Senate budget, for that program. So if it's not happening now, it should be getting implemented. Somebody should be working on it right now.
That's wonderful to hear, because it happens a lot. It sounds like it happens a lot. So that's
I know. I'm sorry.
Thank you for bringing.
I worked hard on that.
Thanks for bringing your expertise to the conversation.
Yeah, that's really exciting to hear. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, and Kenneth brings up another point in the chat that folks do have a right to leave even if they don't have a place to go. So that also factors into this whole mix.
True.
Good question and good conversation.
Isaiah, they can't be discharged against their will unless they have a home to go to of some sort.
Against their will, right?
Yeah.
Rob, I'll look for other questions in the chat to address. And Isaiah is here. I don't know if he has updates, but.
Thank you.
I don't really. I was thinking really hard to find something to update with y'all, but in the words of the late great Whitney Houston, I have nothing. So unless folks have questions for me about environmental health, about inclement weather stuff, I'm here as well, but I know when to stop talking and I don't have anything to say, so I'll just be here.
Well, it is great to have you here, Isaiah. So we'll find something for you to talk about next week. All right. One thing I did want to mention regarding inclement weather, that terminology keeps coming up today. I did want to let folks know that the folks from Pierce County Department of Emergency Management are organizing a initial planning meeting for the summer inclement weather season coming up. So those many folks should have received, if you're on the inclement weather email list, an invitation to do a doodle poll to set up a meeting very soon regarding that topic. So here in the next couple of weeks. So just wanted to share that. I don't think we have anybody from Pierce County DEM here, but let me pause for a moment just in case. All right. And Mark, your hand is up. Is that just from
no,
earlier?
sorry, I just forgot to lower it.
No problem. All right. So let's shift back and have our breakout conversation. So you've heard us mention a number of times today the pending removal of everyone from the Union Loop site. And there, as you can imagine, there's a lot of frustration from folks who have been supporting that community, doing outreach into that community, and creating relationships so that folks can find the right solutions to move into out of that site. There's a lot of frustration that it's about to be dismantled, and there's nothing, there's clearly not enough shelter spaces for folks to move into if everyone did agree to take shelter that's available. And there's really no planning for an alternative place for folks to go. So we thought we would talk in our breakout today about what are some creative ways that the coalition members can use to make statements in response to sweeps of places like the Union Loop. And I see Rosemary's hand up before we get started.
Just a quick reminder about saving the chat if you want to have immediate access to it, since it often gets lost when these breakout sections happen.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder, Rosemary. So you know the regular routine. We will go, excuse me, we'll go into small breakout rooms with 7 or 8 folks in each room. Please, if one person in the room could take some notes to put into the chat, those notes are critical for Timothy to be able to pull together a summary from the conversation. But what we're looking for is what ideas, creative ideas, can coalition members come up with to try to make a statement against these sweeps that continue to happen across our community. And the reason we're looking for creative ideas is obviously protest is one of the things that can happen, but protest can take many forms. And we talked a couple weeks ago about creativity and art. I think back to the homeless memorial in December, where the tents, the small tents, paper tents that were made by Ryan and displayed at the homeless memorial is one idea. So what other ideas can we come up with in our breakout today? So let me get the breakout set up here and stop yammering. All right, so I've set up 7 rooms for us to go into, and we will spend the next 15 minutes in breakout conversation. Hope everybody has a good conversation. See you all back here in 15 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. One of my favorite parts of the meeting is when everybody comes back from breakouts and I get to see everybody actually on screen. Because quite often we have our cameras off, so it's great to see everybody. And I may or may not have just taken a screenshot to document that. As a reminder, for whoever took notes in your breakout room, please paste those into the chat so that Timothy can access those after the meeting. And thank you. Hopefully that was a good conversation, and we can move on to our next topic. So the next thing on our agenda was going to be a quick update on advocacy. I wanted to share that in terms of the state legislative process, after today, there will be just 3 weeks left in the current legislative session. I did want to do a quick mea culpa. You may know that last week I was testifying on the Senate operating budget on behalf of the coalition, and sharing a hat between coalition work and the work I do on my job with the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. But I wanted to let you know that I also testified on behalf of the coalition on Monday at the House operating budget conversation, and then on Tuesday morning at the House capital budget conversation. So that may sound like a lot of wonky government talk, but it just I wanted to make sure that everybody in the coalition's aware that I did that, even though if it is after the fact, because we don't typically have folks speak on behalf of the coalition, since we're just a loose network of folks who are working to end homelessness in Pierce County, and we don't have that formal leadership structure set up. So wanted to share that. There still will be additional opportunities to participate in the legislative process. There's an effort underway, and one of the things that I spoke about last week was the need for the legislators to add more money to the homeless services funding across the state. The amount of money in the operating budgets that's been allocated to backfill document recording fee revenues is not sufficient to avoid cuts in homeless services. And so I'm going to paste the link to an action that we're asking folks to take on behalf of the Housing Alliance. That action is asking the legislators to adjust the budgets before their final approval at the end of session and add more money to backfill those document recording fee revenues. As a reminder, document recording fees are fees that are put on real estate transactions. And the reason that those revenues are down as much as 50% in counties across the state is because real estate transactions have slowed to a trickle due to the rising interest rates. So without additional funding, there's the potential for counties across the state to see 30 to 40 to 50% reductions in funding for homeless services. And that would happen as soon as July. So do take a moment and use the form at the link I dropped in the chat. That will send a email to your legislators and let them know that you care about making sure homeless services don't get cut. The one thing I will say is it's the understanding of Michelle Thomas, our advocacy director at the Housing Alliance, that legislators did not intend to underfund homeless services. There may have been a mix-up in some of the conversations as they set the budget amounts. So we're hopeful that they will add more money to help avoid a crisis in homeless services going forward. But everything you can do can be helpful there. I will promise that in the next week, if we have additional actions to take, I'll send those to the coalition mailing list and count on y'all to take actions to make sure we stand up for folks here in Pierce County. I did not have an opportunity to take a look at the City of Tacoma agenda. Sally, did you have a chance to take a look and see if there's anything we should mention regarding advocacy?
I did. The study session is going to cover the action plan for the HUD funding for housing and economic development. So that might be of interest to some members of the coalition. And then there will be a community forum on April 4th because the March 28th meeting was canceled, which would have been the community forum. So if you have something to say to the city council, normally the first Tuesday is not the time, but in April it will be. So if you have something to say on the 4th, show up and say it.
Awesome. And then one more reminder that regarding the request that our friends at Lehigh made regarding the Lakewood Planning Commission meeting that's coming up on Wednesday. So I can send that link out to that information on the email list as well, so folks have it. All right, that takes care of that item unless anybody has any advocacy questions before we move on. All right. I do want to mention again, we always put it on our agenda to make sure we keep it top of mind. The Pierce County Comprehensive Plan to End Homelessness work is still happening on that. The advisory board will meet next Friday. So the first Friday of every month. Currently we are meeting. As a reminder, I represent the coalition on those meetings. Courtney represents the Lived Experience Coalition. So we're happy to share updates as they come along. I will put the link to the Pierce County page related to that, which I had queued up. And urge folks to keep an eye on this and think about ways that you want to ensure that the county keeps moving this work forward. It seems that the work happens in fits and starts, and the most recent tangible thing that I talked with you about was the decision and endorsement of what a unified regional approach should look like in the county. And so I'll help fill in where we're going next with that work. Courtney, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to add to what Rob said about he and I are very willing to share information. But what I value more than sharing information is having people in attendance who will make public comment. I want to honor Sally Perkins, who has consistently been present, who consistently makes public comment, not just on what she wants to see, but on what she sees in that meeting. And that is very valuable. Every time we have a meeting, we start with what's it look like to be an ally in this space. And then at the end, we rank ourselves if we were. And Sally swings hard for anti-racism. And I really, really appreciate that. And so please be a Sally.
All right. Any questions about the Pierce County Comprehensive Plan to End Homelessness? Other than that it's way too long of a name and it rolls right off the tongue, I'll tell you. All right. So let's shift over to, let's see. Jan, you're still here. You want to give an update on the Safe Sites for All committee?
Yes, this is an open invitation to anybody to come to our Zoom meeting every Monday at noon. Register on the website. We now have City of Tacoma is a regular attendee. We talk about inclement weather. And the funny thing is that inclement weather sort of identifies major gaps in the systems that we have that cover all things concerning housing and security. And of course, we talk about safe parking, both now there's 2 safe parking systems that are formalized, the City of Tacoma and the Safe Parking Network under Paula Anderson at New Hope. So come and brainstorm with us, and we'd love to have you.
Thank you, Jan. And let's see, any other coalition committee updates we need to share? Rosemary, anything come to mind this week? No? All right. So let me open the floor for folks to offer any good trouble announcements. Any upcoming events you want to share with the group? Tammy, I know you have one. Anyone want to fill in after Tammy? Go ahead, Tammy.
I do. Just a reminder of the fundraiser tomorrow, Valpo Veterans Village fundraiser at the Puyallup Elks from 5 to 9. We'll start selling tickets at 5, dinners at 5:30. There's a few surprises in store, so that'll be fun. Tickets are $15. That does include dinner and the comedy show. And the stand-up comedians, if I haven't already reiterate, anyway, the stand-up comedians are actually giving up paid gigs to donate their time for tomorrow's show. So that's pretty cool. And 3 of them are actually veterans. So it's going to be a really good show. They do actually perform on the comedy circuit from Seattle to Olympia. So these guys aren't just your average amateur comedians. They actually do get paid usually for their time, but they are donating their time tomorrow night. So it'll be a good show. Also, we have got some great auction items and they're still coming in. So you're going to want to be there for that. We will hold, so far we have 10 tables reserved. I have reserved 2 tables for the coalition. So for anybody who's coming from the coalition. Also, we got a great donation yesterday from the Seattle Seahawks. It is for 2 tickets. They're behind the team front row and 2 sideline passes. So that's gonna be a hot item coming up there. So if you can be there, great. I'd like to see a lot of coalition come out and support us. It's gonna be a fun night. And Monique is flying into town. So it'll be even funner if you all know Monique. So yeah, we'll hope to see some of you there. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. Dua Rahima, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, so for those who don't know, I'm Dua Rahima Williams, and I'm the statewide organizer for Resident Action Project RAP, which is a program of the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. And RAP is a statewide network of folks with lived experience who live in affordable housing, service providers and nonprofit staff, and together across race and class, we are building leaders empowered to change local, state, and federal policies. And we do that through storytelling, organizing, and civic engagement. But I'm here to personally invite y'all to a summit we're having on May 20th. It's a Saturday from 11 to 4. They'll be in 4 different places: in Vancouver, Washington, Spokane, somewhere in South King County, and in Bellingham. And so I will put this link in the chat, and we would love to see y'all there. Some of the things we'll be talking about is the roadmap to housing justice that the Alliance is doing, rent stabilization, where we are, where we want to go, and how we build a movement for next year. We're going to dive into why it's important for resident organizing and why it's crucial for housing justice on the local and state level. And we'll be also developing some of RAP's priorities for 2024. And you'll get a free lunch. So lunch, and we eat good, because I like food, and so lunch and snacks will be provided. And yes, Rob will be at the South King County one.
Although you guys see me enough.
So if you want to travel, you can either go to Vancouver or come see me in Bellingham. I'm not going to be at the Spokane one. That's where I'm at currently, but yeah. So thank you for letting me share.
Of course. Always great to have you in space, Dua Rahima. Ed, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, this is supposed to be good trouble. So any of you that are going to the opera this weekend, it's about the Tacoma method, and please go and enjoy yourself and realize that the Tacoma method is active in our city council and mayor of the city of Tacoma. They're trying to drive the homeless people out of Tacoma, just as they drove the Chinese out in 1885. So just a reminder.
Thank you, Ed. We can always count on you for good trouble.
Or bad trouble,
Jay?
Some good trouble. Pocket projects. We've got a lot of support. I am currently looking for glow in the dark yarn. You can find it on Amazon. It's also at Walmart. It's in a few places. I'm working with Richard on a project. So what the hope is make a pocket project that's a crochet kit that people can put together one of these bags that has glow in the dark yarn, and then we give them money for their work and they can learn a skill. And then we take those bags and we put Narcan in them, and then we hand them back out to the community so they can find those bags in their tents and they go in the dark. I'm looking for carabiners to attach to the bags and the glow in the dark yarn and crochet hooks. So I will put my contacts in the chat, but this looks like it's going to be the pilot with a couple other projects that are a lot easier or varying complications in different things. And hopefully we can start getting a little bit of money out to them and projects that we need to us and start building community through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. All right, last call for Good Trouble announcements. All right, so let's share a little bit of space now for anybody have any success stories they would like to share as we wrap up today's meeting?
Well, that's depressing.
Sometimes success is hard to define. I see Cece on camera, and that's a success story. Cece gets to retire from her role at MDC today, so I hope there's lots of good celebrating going on, Cece.
Oh, yeah.
It's
been a great ride. It's been really great. And once I go celebrate the next couple of weeks, I'll be back on the coalition every Friday. It's virtual, so no matter where I am, I'll be able to be at the meeting.
Perfect. If you've got palm trees waving in the breeze with the ocean breeze, then perfectly fine. Jan, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I didn't want to make an announcement yet because this is not 100% sure thing, but LASA learned yesterday that Congressman Strickland's office has moved us forward in a $2.5 million appropriation for our Gravelly Lake Commons. And the reasons given were, one, we're pretty far ahead with the fundraising. And two, and really important to this group, is because we have so much community support. So for those of you who sent us letters, thank you. For those of us who just sent us good wishes, we accept those also. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Jan. That's great news. And Ryan, why don't you close us out? Oh, you're muted right now, Ryan.
I feel bad for being a downer, some of the tone. Marlene's has agreed to host an art display. The tents that we put together for National Homeless Remembrance Day. We're gonna have put a display up in Marlene's, basically all 166 tents. Should be big and colorful, and the idea too is that if we do this in subsequent years, that we just keep expanding on it. So that's pretty exciting.
Awesome. And Gerald, I saw you mention you're back. Do you want to give us a quick update before we close out on how things are going with setting up the village across from Brotherhood RISE?
Sure, I'll make it quick. I know we're pressed against time. Sorry, been cut off.
No problem.
Pulled out everything. Yeah, so we're about 3/4 of the way finished now. So we're looking maybe next 2-3 weeks. Our biggest issue has been labor. We're down to 2 people that's over doing it now, and they're getting ready to start hanging drywall. Once the drywall is done, then the city will come in and finish the electrical portion. We are anticipating about 2 to 3 weeks. I'm trying to push a little further. I'm still pushing out, trying to get volunteers. So, but about 3/4 of the way done. But as I always mention, we're still kind of getting the numbers of people coming in as we're housing them inside our building that will be going in there. I know Teresa wanted me to kind of cover procedures really quick as well, kind of dispel rumors. So we were very low barrier on how to be on the list, how to come in. We have created, I use the word OML, sort of like order of merit list, but there's really no order of merit to be in there. If you need housing, we're going to house you. It's temporary. but it's temporary based off each individual as we give each individual a service plan, work with them to see what their needs are, whatever their housing solution is, and help them get to that housing solution. But we also want to help them maintain it once they get into the property or once they get ready to get to a housing solution. And we're also able to get them to treatment, working with Where Did They Go Foundation, and we're able to get people to in treatment services, anyone that need that, but that's not a requirement. But you know, we want to try to help and aid you to get you going further. I know I'm going a little fast because I know we're running out of time, and someone's standing at my door waiting for me again as well. And I can go over a little bit more next week if you want me to, a little bit better detail, Rob.
Sure. And just general overview. So the site is going to have 16 micro shelters, and how many folks are you expecting it'll serve?
Correct. So it has 16 shelters up to, because they're only 8 by 10. So we're looking at, 16, but we can extend it to family, and we'll figure out how to do that if there is a family. We'll get them in. Plus, we still have capacity at the building, so we can go up to 32 if need be, but families will definitely get over there first if it's a family.
Awesome.
Sorry for the rush job.
No, that's fine. And it's exciting that you're getting closer to being able to open. And we don't want to hold you up either. So thanks for the update.
No worries. Thank you.
Yep. And Jan, I see you have your hand up.
Yes. So a week ago today, we had a shooting on site at Prairie Oaks. And I am going to get around to good news about this. It took me some influence from friends in the field of mental health services to help us appreciate the fact that we housed this person for 2 years and helped their family stabilize. And I'm just looking for any silver lining I can find. And so thanks to my friends in the mental health fields that for helping me see that that things could be worse. So I will take whatever little happiness from that I can. And the baby who we thought was really hurt was just not hurt. So it's just a miracle that people were not hurt.
Yeah, sorry that's to hear about that situation happening at the site, but fantastic news that it was not as dire as it sounded like it could have been at the beginning. All right. So I want to thank everybody for hanging in there. We still have 44 folks here in the room. We can go ahead and wrap up a few moments early. If you do have the capacity and interest, we will take a 5-minute break and then stay in this room for folks who are trying to plan for upcoming meetings. And for those who need to go, have a great weekend. We'll see you all next week.